So hello everyone, and welcome to the webinar today. It's great to see such a high turnout. We've got partners logged in from North America, the Far East, Africa. For those of you who have only recently joined the network, my name is Charles Keys. I'm the Business Development Manager here at Eazi-Apps. In this new format of webinar, I'm going to be interviewing an Eazi-Apps partner with a view to share best practice. My guest today is our partner from London. Priyesh, welcome to the webinar.
Hi there, Charles. Thanks very much for having me on.
Perfect. Just for the benefit of anyone who hasn't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, perhaps you could tell us just a little bit about yourself and why you decided to join Eazi-Apps.
Sure. So I joined Eazi-Apps around 2 years ago now, prior to that, I'd been working within the digital marketing space. So we'd been working with web, SEO, and so on and so forth. And this very much looked like a really good opportunity with the technology available, the tools that are available. But I'd also known Zach for a good 13 years as well. So when he approached me with this proposition, looking at both the technology available, but also the trust that I have in Zach to be able to deliver from a support perspective, it seemed like a very, very good opportunity.
Awesome. I mean, I've got an extensive list of questions I'm hoping to cover today, but perhaps you could start off just by giving us a bit of an overview of your business and how it's performed over the last 12 months or so.
It's gone very, very well. I would say we've had around over the last 12 months we've had around a 25% increase in projects that have been coming in, and which has resulted in around a 61% increase in turnover. Over the last 12 months itself, we've had 47 projects that have come on board in the last 12 months. And as with the headline of the emails, that's resulted in around £164,000 worth of income coming in. But from a growth perspective, we've been hitting our targets consistently and been very, very happy with the growth that's that we've achieved, really.
That sounds amazing in terms of performance and also growth as well. 47 projects, a huge number. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be really curious as to how you've achieved these fantastic figures. And so I wanted to, I guess, kind of go into your sales process specifically in a little bit more depth, in a little bit more detail. So maybe we could start at the very beginning. What's your key strategy for generating leads or generating inquiries for the business?
So, I mean, there's a number of different avenues that you can take. There's obviously social media, you've got Google, you've got paid ads, you've got networking that is there, door-to-door or even cold calling and so on and so forth. For me, the most productive, for me, the most productive form has certainly been networking. Ever since I joined as a licensee, that's something that has been of paramount importance to myself, and very heavily getting myself out there within the networking circles. I'm blessed, fortunate that I'm in London, where you could probably network for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day if you wanted to be honest with you. But I would say predominantly it's been networking, because I find that this business it's a relationship business, and you are trying to build relationships directly with the business owners themselves, and only so much can be done via social media, via email marketing, via cold calling and telephone calls. I think that it's networking, it's building relationships, forging those relationships directly with the business owners themselves, and then trying to portray the value of the service that we offer. And so for me, the most beneficial way, and really the only way that we've driven our business forward, is through networking.
Okay, so it's, just to clarify, summarize, it's predominantly business networking events, so getting those soft introductions with business owners, And are you focusing on the BNI or the Chamber of Commerce, or are you also attending sort of independent events? What have you found works for you specifically?
Yeah, so for me, I am a member of BNI. That's obviously a weekly meeting that we have. That's been incredibly successful for me. I would say that around 35% of my business is generated directly through BNI. And then I do obviously do other networking events, which is slightly more ad hoc, depending on availability times and the look and feel of that. I would say that was very important in the early stages. I think that as the business has scaled and grown, something that has superseded BNI and networking in general is now referrals and recommendations coming through from various clients and associates of myself. So I think that in the early stages, without networking, it would have been a very, very slow process. That allowed us to speed up the entire process that was there, and thereafter it's a mixture of networking and referrals, recommendations.
And are you sort of incentivizing those referrals at all, or is these referrals coming off the back of your work and the quality of the work?
Completely off our work. I think that it's an interesting point, because incentivizing or offering those fees is one way of doing it, but I feel that my gut and instinct tells me that that's not a sustainable model, because if you are as soon as you turn that tap off, as it were, everything will dry out. Whereas my focus is predominantly on the network that I've built, the work that we've done, the quality that we've provided, and that is effectively, it perpetuates itself. It becomes a snowball effect whereby our expenditure on marketing has gone down, but the number of projects that we're bringing in is going up, and that's just by the very nature of the number of recommendations that we're getting rid of.
Perfect. So would you say, as it stands at the moment, your marketing costs are predominantly entry to networking events? Are there any other kind of overheads that you have when it comes to outbound marketing?
No, it's literally my monthly fee to BNI, and that is my only outgoing on marketing.
Excellent, excellent. And do you have any, I guess, sort of qualifying questions that you would ask someone at a networking event before committing to a meeting, before committing any more time to the prospect?
So it's an interesting question, because when I am networking, I think that at every stage through a sales funnel, there needs to be an end purpose to it. And so for me, the end purpose of the network, of any networking event, is to arrange a meeting. And so when I go in there, it's less so about the qualifying questions and much more about understanding, much more about listening to them, really, and finding out more about their business, what makes them tick, what type of market they're in, what problems they're facing, how their marketing is going, are they looking to scale and grow, are there any areas of improvement. And it's really much more of a general conversation, much less about us as a business and what we can offer them, and much more about them as a business, and deep diving and just getting a surface level of who they are, how their business runs, what problems they face, and how they're looking to grow, really.
So it's very much I guess a sort of general discussion. You also talked about identifying problems. I take it at that point you may suggest, or there may be an opportunity for you to schedule in a more in-depth one-to-one consultation or meeting with them. Correct.
So, yeah, so really it's a filtering process, because obviously at a networking event, there could be so many people that are there. Not everyone is going to be suited to our industry, to our business. Not everyone is going to, it's not going to be the right time for everyone to be able to invest in our products. So really for me, it is twofold. It really, firstly, learning more about their business. I would say filtering out and understanding who is right for us to set up a meeting and who is not. So we're not filling in our entire diary just for the sake of filling in a diary, but really identifying those that we could potentially really add value to. And it's a simple conversation to say, do you know what, it'd be lovely hearing more about your business. It'd be lovely to catch up over a coffee. Should we schedule a meeting? And I literally do get my calendar out there and then and try and book in a meeting whilst I'm with them. But it is very much a filtered process, and it's instinctive. If the feeling's right, if there's a connection, if there's a feeling that we can add value and we want to learn more about each other's business, the purpose of that networking meeting is to go there and fill up my diary, not to talk about what we do, the clients that we work with, the projects that we've done. It is literally to learn more about them and book in a meeting, really.
Perfect. And I mean, leading up to that meeting, so the cup of coffee that turns into hopefully an hour-long consultation and a sale, and we'll come on to that in just a moment. But leading up to that meeting, do you set aside any time to do any research before entering into that conversation? I mean, what would you look to do in preparation before that consultation?
Indeed. You'd split this into two areas, really, websites and apps, because they are eminently different. So within the website side of things, an obvious thing is I would go onto their website, I would pinpoint areas of improvement, and I would only spend sort of 10 minutes on that, and just having a very high level view of areas where I think they could be improved. But also I would look at the I use tools like a website grader, where we put it into there. We'd look at their site speed, have they done their SEO correctly, have they got a site map, and so on and so forth, performance issues. And so really I've already got in my mind a rough framework of areas of improvement that could be offered off the back of it. So that's a little bit of research that I do there. In terms of the app market, I again go onto their website. I try and understand their industry. I try and understand their target market, what private clients they're trying to bring in, and then again, just within my own mind, just position it so that I have an understanding of what type of features could work for that business. But I'll be honest, I probably spend 10 or 15 minutes, and that is all. It's generally just prior to the meeting where it's fresh in my mind, and I'll have a look at it. It's very instinctive, really, and you don't want to delve into too much of the technicalities. You want them, when you're in the meeting, to be talking about their problems and their issues, but at least if you've got some research in the background, it shows that you've taken the time out to have a look and understand their business. It shows that you have an interest in their business, but it also shows the experience and the value that we can add as well.
Excellent. And I think, like you said, sort of demonstrating that you've put in a bit of effort before that meeting's really, really important. It shows that you're taking their time seriously. Hopefully all of our licensees do that. When you walk into that meeting, though, do you have a set format that you follow for each meeting? Do you have a set process, or does it change depending on the person, the product, the industry?
There are tweaks and changes, but I mean, I've been a licensee now for, I think it's 19 months or so, just over a year and a half, and I would say that I have somewhat stumbled on a formula that does seem to work, really. Within the website if it's a client with a potential website, what we do is we look at the initial part of the meeting is just an informal chat, just to get to know the person and really just warm up the lead, as it were. Thereafter, we'd look at their website, and I would get them to pinpoint why they've specifically asked to set up that meeting. So what are the issues they're facing? How many leads are being driven from their website? What improvements can be made? So on and so forth. Once I've got all of that information, that's when my sort of formulaic approach comes into it, whereby I define how we break down a project. So we break down a project into three different areas. So the first area is design, the second area is DNA, the third area is build. So design is very much focused on layout, imagery, the user experience, the call to actions, how you're trying to develop those lead magnets and lead generation tools, and so on and so forth. The DNA side of things is their personality. So trying to understand what underpins their business, their mission, their vision, their values, because you could have two different accountancy practices. One might be a very traditional accountancy practice. One might be a very forward-thinking modern practice which only uses technology. Their websites will look very, very different. And so what you've got to try and glean from the conversation is what makes them tick, what are their values, what look and feel are they going for, what is the personality of the business. And I don't necessarily ask questions directly related to that, but it's again a very instinctive feel. When you're in their office, you look at their website, you look at the team, you look at how you're already mind mapping ideas, so you can talk about the DNA side of things. And the third thing is the build, the back end build. It's all well and good having a site that looks great from the front, but if it doesn't perform well, there will be issues there from an SEO perspective and so on and so forth. So I always show them the final part is the website grader tool, and show them that this is where their website is ranking currently. These are examples of our websites as well, and that's really the general process that I go through, and then that's the formulaic part, that middle part of it, and then thereafter it's much more of a conversation and leading into the close, really.
Okay, and I guess moving on to the close. So, you know, a lot of people are great at talking about products and benefits. They may even be able to uncover problems that businesses are facing, but they struggle with that end part of the process. Yeah. Do you have any strategies that you would follow or advise people to follow when trying to close a deal?
Yes and no. It very much depends on the person in front of you, because they will have different drivers and different motivators that enable them to cross that line, as it were. I always find if the question of price comes very early in the conversation, instantly that is an indicator that could be an issue, because we, as an agency, aren't one of the cheapest in the industry. You can find cheaper, and so that will start to bring alarm bells. If we've gone through that whole process, and then at some point they then start to engage with pricing, that's the point where I know that there's real legs in this, that they can be closed there and then, because you've really shown value, and they are genuinely interested in the service that is there. Couple of strategies that I use: I always have my proposal printed with me. If the timing is right and it feels right, and the close looks right, that I will always bring it out and say, right, to lock in this price, to ensure that we can guarantee this price and get started with you. It will take a 4-week process, for example, for a website to get done. It will take a 4-week process. In 4 weeks, you'll have a site that is working wonderfully well for yourself, driving more leads. To lock in this price, are you happy to get started and sign this proposal? And it will literally be in front of them as we are speaking. So but there are a lot of variations. It's again, that close part of it is very instinctive. The only part of the process which is a formula driven one is that middle part of the process where I go through how we work, basically.
Okay, perfect. So you're leading up to the close by delivering the value along the journey, which always makes it a lot easier. And if you were trying to pitch an app to a business rather than a website, would you have a similar strategy, or is it slightly different? How would that work?
Yeah, it's a very similar strategy. So it's with the app side of things, I would be focusing far more on the features and functionality and aligning them directly to how it could benefit their business in terms of the values that are there. But in terms of the close, it is very, very, very similar. For me, the close is all about ROI. So if you can clearly explain how they will get a return on investment based on the investment they are potentially making on us as an agency, then the price becomes almost irrelevant. And so so little things like understanding the average value of a sale for them, and literally, and I guess putting that within the pitch itself. So if an average value for a client is £500, a cost for a website is £2,000. Look, we're only looking to achieve four inquiries via your website, or four sales that come via your website to be able to recoup that money back. So actually, we would hope to get that completed within the first month or two. So thereafter, your return on investment is very, very strong. So if you can intimate the values and the ROI, the price almost becomes redundant.
Excellent. And of course, we've got things like the ROI calculator that you can use for our push messaging system. I think asking about target sale price, turnover, what would increasing revenue mean to you, all of these leading questions, but getting quite specific with real figures, looking at pounds and pence, it's always going to help lead towards that close. And I mean, sometimes I've found when working in sales that as hard as we try, you enter into a longer sales cycle with someone. They could be going on holiday, they could need approval from someone else. How do you nurture prospects through that slightly longer sales cycle that happens from time to time?
Yeah, so I mean, if, for example, they're going on a holiday, for example, I'll always make a note of when they're back. I'll always mention that, look, we'll touch base at a certain date in time, and it will always be in the diary to be able to follow up. So it's about communication, really. It's about over communicating and making sure that you are communicating promptly, and when you are going to say you are going to follow up, really. So I think if you're using a good CRM system, it's just in building all of that into the process, really, and making sure you're following up when you promise you are going to, because it's critical. I think that if you over deliver or over promise on anything, even if that comes to the communications, that will then potentially leak into the project as well. So if you say you're going to contact them on a certain date and you miss that date, automatically there's going to be a negative standpoint there that they're thinking potentially, well, hold on, if they can't even deliver on contacting me on a certain date, well, what's going to happen on the deliverable dates when the project starts? So it's sticking to your word, really, with those longer sales cycles that are there.
Excellent. I mean, do you drip feed people content? Do you send them anything as time goes by, or do you just stick to those specific calendar dates?
I stick to those specific calendar dates. I don't do any sort of email marketing, any follow-up emails that are there. If I say I'm going to contact them on a certain date, it will be via email, WhatsApp, or a phone call, but I will contact them on that date, and it will be very informal. How's things going? Would be great to catch up. Should we catch up for a coffee? Should we schedule a meeting? Whatever it may be, following up from our last conversation. But there's no other drip feeding in that middle process, because I find that that can become quite pushy then. And I find that actually my clients like the fact that I stand off. It feels as if there's not a sense of desperation in the sales process, really.
Definitely, and you're coming across as someone they want to spend time with as well, because there isn't that sense of pushiness. So I think that strategy, I can see that working really well. And I guess looking at the market today, kind of moving on from the sales process a little bit now, are there any particular industries that you think are in desperate need of a mobile app, or businesses that are in need of a mobile app? Any verticals that you would be concentrating on at the moment, or moving into 2020?
Not really. I mean, if we're looking at a vertical, I've never really concentrated on a single vertical. That's the first thing to mention. I would say if you're looking at verticals, personal trainers, restaurants, those two areas have been fairly successful for us. But I would say, I mean, to put it in perspective, in the last 19 months, we've worked with now, I think 50 or 60 different industries. Areas. So for me, it's never about the industry. It's always about the business owner. If a business owner, you can have two business owners in the same industry. One will be more perceptible and open to business growth, scaling their business. They'll see the values in it. Another one won't. So really, for me, it's not about the industry. It's about the person in front of you, and if they can see the value, if they are in that growth phase of their business, if they are looking to invest in new technology, if they've got issues with their current marketing cycle, regardless of what industry they're in, they're the type of people that we try and attract and try and pull in.
Excellent. And are there any features within Eazi-Apps or Eazi-Sites that you tend to kind of lead with or put a little bit more weight behind, the features that kind of ultimately end up closing the deal for you? Are there any standout elements?
I think for Eazi-Sites, there's three things that this is really at the end towards the close. I think the one thing is site speed. Site speed for any site on Eazi-Sites is fantastically quick, and pretty much every client that we've pitched for, when I've shown them examples of our sites, we've always had a quicker site speed than their existing site. So that's one thing. The other thing is what I call the live website builder. So actually, when they get their unique link where they can view the built-in desktop, tablet, and in mobile, I always put across that this is a live website builder. So this allows us to be able to collaborate. You can see all changes instantly. As soon as you email them, we get them done within 24 hours, and you can give us feedback very, very instantly on those side of things. They love. I found clients absolutely love that feature. It's one of the biggest selling points and one of the most unique propositions that we have. They're probably the two biggest within that site, within the websites, alongside with all the value that you've intimated prior. With the apps, I say mobile apps are far more bespoke. You've got to really understand their business. I would say the range of features is probably the biggest selling point, but the key strategy is to hone in on 5 to 8 features that are going to be relevant for their business. As soon as you overcomplicate it with too many features and talk about everything, you're going to lose them. So really focus on the core features that are going to be a benefit to them directly. Really.
Excellent. So very much about making it digestible, kind of easy to understand, because a lot of business owners, they're not technical people. They're not interested in technology for technology's sake. So I think it's hard to almost digest more than 5 or 6 features or benefits in one sitting, right?
Indeed, exactly that. So it's simplifying the process, simplifying the sales process, simplifying the delivery process once they've signed, and simplifying the terminology when you're at the close, really. And all the language should be speaking to what they need and what they want and what they require as a business, based on the pinpointed problems that you've got from earlier conversations.
Absolutely. And you know, as a network, we've got I think we're around 300 partners in 40 countries, and you know, some of those people have been with us for a long time. We've also had people that have just joined us. In fact, quite a lot of people have joined us over the last 3 or 4 months. What advice would you give them just starting out in this industry?
Right, so yeah, great question. So the first thing is, one thing that I did was the training modules that Zach and the team have built are absolutely, the online training is absolutely fantastic. So one thing that I found was hugely beneficial is that prior to my training in Leicester, I actually did every single training module before I came. It took me probably 3 days in intermittent parts, but I found that when I came to training, I could actually pinpoint areas that I was confused by and areas that I felt I was comfortable with. So what that meant is, as soon as I left Leicester and the training, I closed my first deal within 2 days of leaving that training. But that was because I'd done the preparation before. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, like we said from the start, we network. Join a BNI networking group, join a Chamber of Commerce networking group, join a networking group, because when you're starting out, you're unheard of. Your name is not out there. Nobody really knows who you are. The beauty of with a networking group that is like a membership club is that you've got all those people in the room that are looking to do business with you, potentially do business with you, or are looking to pass referrals over to you. That's how those networking organizations work. And so really, by joining that, it's giving you a huge head start. It's almost, I've got my BNI group, my networking group has 60 people I see every single week. It's almost as if I've got 60 people within my sales team. They're constantly looking for business for me on behalf of me. But that I think it gave me a massive start when I initially joined the group. So really training, understand the technology, use the technology, practice learning how to use all the different dashboards, all the features, and so on and so forth, and then get yourself out there. Don't be shy, don't be afraid, and get yourself out there, networking and build your name, really.
Really, really interesting. And you know, sometimes, I mean, I've experienced this. I'm sure you've experienced this as well. Business can be a little bit slow. It happens. How do you get through those periods where you have a couple of bad beats, a few deals fall through? Most people have their own strategies to kind of break through the wall. And I was really just interested to know what you do personally.
I've got to be so this is something me and Zach spoke about in February, I think it was, because even though this year has gone fantastically well, February was January, February, that Christmas period was a quiet period. So I actually picked up the phone to Zach and mentioned this to him, and something that we both spoke about was your pipeline. I think that your sales conversion and the number of projects that you've got coming in is solely dependent on the strength of your pipeline. If you can see within your pipeline, you've got meetings booked in, you can gauge the quality of those meetings, say, look, this client, very positive, very confident, this one is maybe. You're constantly feeding that pipeline, and as soon as there is a lull, I almost go on the offensive, a massive offensive, to really engage with my networking group, engage with my current clients, and try and fill up that pipeline with their network themselves. So it's not me myself doing it. So feed that pipeline constantly, and when you're getting a lull, just go on the offensive and be very aggressive with it, so that you're making sure that that pipeline is as strong as possible.
Absolutely great advice. You know, the first thing that I do when this happens is I actually look at my activity over the last 3-4 weeks. I look at how many meetings have I actually attended here. More often than not, I'm attending a lot of meetings, but not a lot of sales meetings. And that's when I start to kind of switch things around, which really helps. And I mean, talking of help, obviously, you know, you've turned over 164K, you know, incredible results. We would love to help you get to 250K next year. I'd just love to know, you know, what are we doing right at the moment, and what should we be doing next as a central organization to help you develop the business to that stage?
So it's a great question. So in terms of what you're doing right, I think on both sides, Eazi-Sites and Eazi-Apps, the platform itself is great. It's very user friendly, very easy to understand. Once you've been doing it for a year plus, 6 months plus, I would say the one thing that stands out is the support that I get from the team. As Charles and Elia, James, and whoever else is on there, as you know, I probably email you once, twice, 3 times a day with different things that are going on within our business, and I would say the support that I get, it's almost as if I'm never left alone. I have a tech arm behind me that allows me to concentrate on business development and sales, so that side of things, from the technical side of things, is covered. That's the one, and Zach, of course, can't be missed out from that. So I think that that's the one thing that stands out. In terms of where it could go next, one interesting thing, and it's something, again, I've touched on with Zach, is having multiple verticals. So we've obviously got Eazi-Sites, Eazi-Apps. One interesting, I do get a lot of inquiries about 2 predominant areas that are interconnected. So that's SEO and social media. For me, I did SEO for 10 years. I've got no personal interest in getting back into SEO. But what would be interesting is potentially looking at platforms that are out there that enable us to have an add-on service, or within SEO, within social media, or CRM systems, or booking systems, that just add-on features and services that can allow us to build into a product and actually service a client for every one of those needs, really.
Excellent. So very much expanding the product range with new solutions that are still focused within the SME sector,
Indeed.
Would you sort of advocate focusing predominantly on sort of marketing, because that's been a focus so far, or would you take a broader outlook when it comes to?
I would focus on marketing. I think that whenever you're in a business, I think that there are some businesses that spread themselves too thin, and they often they focus on so many different areas that they're average to good at everything, but not great at anything. So I would suggest that by niching down within the marketing space allows us to be perceived as authorities and experts within our different services that we offer. So whether that be graphic design, SEO, social media, so on. And so there's so many different facets within the marketing space that are there, video production, but having these types of add-ons, I think, would be hugely beneficial.
Definitely, and enables you to focus on the same problem, even if you have many different solutions, which from a marketing sales standpoint is a lot easier as well. You know, I've really enjoyed today's discussion. It's been fascinating, and I've actually got a few people that have sent over questions. Would you mind sticking around for a few minutes? That would
be awesome. Actually, I think yeah, that's what I told you before when we were offline. That's probably the part that I'm most excited about. So yeah, absolutely.
So I think one question that came in a couple of times, people would like to get maybe a bit more of an overview of your team, because you quite often refer to people beyond yourself. So maybe to get a bit of insight into the scope of your team and who's involved.
Indeed, indeed. So, I mean, the first thing that needs to be mentioned is you guys there are the support and the tech arm of my team. That's the first thing. But one thing that I've strategically done, and I think it's helped my business scale fairly quickly, is I've built strategic partnerships with some of the verticals that we've mentioned. So I work directly with one graphic design agency. I work directly with a software development agency. That allows us to produce not only apps that are within the platform, but outside the platform itself as well. I've built a strategic partnership with an SEO agency, with a video production agency, and so that is key. And I work with them on a daily basis. So because there's so many projects that we've got ongoing, and so that is very much a team. We've also brought in contractors who design some of our sites, design some of the apps that are there as well. They do the initial designs before I take over and I guess buff it up and fine tune whether it's an app or a website as well. So it's I think three angles that we go by. It's yourselves in head office, it's the strategic partnerships, and it's the contractors that I have as well.
Excellent. So, you know, it sounds like you're very much focused on, where possible, working with teams of specialists that are in place already and actually developing the business through partnerships. And I think that's probably one of the most wonderful things about working in the technology sector. You know, it allows you to work with these people and just scale really, really quickly. And in terms of, I guess, a revenue split between these verticals, I mean, not to the penny, but are you mainly focusing on websites now or mobile apps? Do you have like a key focus, or is it fairly evenly split?
I would say websites is bread and butter. I would say that is the regular, constant stream of work that comes in. I'd probably say websites take up about 70% of our work, and I'd say apps take around 30% of our work. It's roughly, don't quote me on it, it's roughly that split. Yeah. But I would say websites are a great point. Websites, it's the interesting thing is that perception-wise, even though the mobile app market is growing so rapidly, everybody perceives that they need a website. If they start a business, you look at your checklist and say, I need a business card, I need an email, I need a website, and so on and so forth. A mobile app doesn't appear on that list. So it's almost as if the website is the starting point of our funnel. And then as businesses are growing, and once we've built trust with them, we introduce them to the app side of things as well, whether that's a PWA, iOS or Android. But it's almost like the websites is the start of the funnel and apps are the latter end of the funnel.
Excellent. And we've just had one more question come in. When you attend a networking event, how do you position yourself? Do you position yourself as like a web developer or a marketing specialist? What's your typical angle?
Yeah, good question. I would say website and app developer. So I always cover both angles.
Okay, excellent. I'm just having a quick check to see if we've got any more questions. Just having a look down the list here.
Yeah, sure.
So I think we've covered most of these in the actual presentation, which was good news. If anyone else has any questions at all, by all means fire them in the chat box. Likewise, Zach, I don't know if you wanted to come online at the end, if you had any questions or thoughts at all.
Yeah, hi everybody, and Priyesh, thank you very much for that really good insight, and I think that everybody's going to benefit from this for sure. And Charles, yeah, I think the way that the questions that you asked were 100% relevant to everybody, so that's really helpful. In terms of your business, Priyesh, when you are prospecting to a business, how do you go about with your pricing? How do you define or determine what price you pitch at?
Okay, so for websites, our prices predominantly start at £1,500 and then scale up based on the number of pages. And the simple way of explaining that to a client or prospective client is that every page needs to be designed. We need to add SEO onto every page. We need to look at the keywords and so on and so forth that are there. So it scales up based on number of pages that are there. Within mobile apps, I would say the PWAs and the apps that we do on the platform are fairly consistent. I would say it's around the £2,500 to £3,000 mark. But then, Zach, as you know, we've started doing in partnership with the software development agency, we've started doing much larger scale apps as well, and that is very much dependent on the size of the app, the functionality that goes in, and so that could go in at the £30,000–40,000 mark, depending on the scale and the size and the complexity and the length of time of the build, really. So it depends on one of the three products that we've got there.
Okay, that's quite interesting. And do you bundle apps and websites together as a single proposition?
I have done, yeah, absolutely. I have done. So if I do that, that's the only time that I will give some type of discounts. Generally around 10 to 15% discount on it. But yeah, I've done it. I'd probably say I've done it about 8 or 9 times. That's all.
Yeah, if you've got a couple of thank you for that answer, by the way, it's really helpful. We've got a few people here who are asking a few more questions. So I know that you've got another meeting in about 10 minutes.
I'm good for 15 minutes, Zach. I need to leave at about 3. That's absolutely fine.
Right, okay, so I think it's Paul Stokes, and he just wants to come on the mic. So Paul, if I just unmute you here.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm just wondering, obviously you say when you go to networking events, you obviously chat to people like we all do. How do you know you can help that person before I say you might know their website's slow or not very good? How do you know before you go there? Do you know, or are you literally just chatting to them and then you get home and say, do you want to meet up for a coffee?
Yeah, well, two ways. So one of them is what you just said. So I might have a chat with them, I'll get their business card, I'll check out their marketing material, website, so on and so forth thereafter, and I'll possibly drop them an email to say, let's catch up for a coffee. That's one way, but another way is actually when you're there face to face, you can, just little indicators, sometimes you can tell that they're interested in your service. As soon as you say website or app, little indicators like, oh, that's interesting, we were looking at getting that done, could you have a look at our website, so on and so forth. If they start to say these types of things, that's an indicator that they are in the market for our services, and I will then try and book in that meeting fairly instantly, to be honest, straight away with them. So it very much depends on what they're saying as they're saying it, and I'll do it in a very instinctive way based on the conversation, really. So yeah, but one of the two ways, Paul.
Thank you for that, Priyesh. Paul, hopefully that answered your question. Has anybody else got any questions? I can open up the mic for a few minutes here.
Jack, it's Gary Harvey speaking. I've got a question, if that's okay.
Sure, Gary, fire away.
Yeah, my question was going back to networking meetings. Really, I find that a great many of the potential target businesses that we're typically interested in with a mobile app, for example, the beauty salon, the takeaway food outlet, etc. Many of those business categories don't seem to be attending and don't really attend networking meetings. And I'm finding that some of those contacts are perhaps 2 or even 3 times removed from the people in my networking groups. Is that something that you've experienced? And if so, how have you bridged the gap to get in front of that type of business?
So I've not experienced that, and I think there's one predominant reason why I haven't, because within my networking event, for example, BNI as an example, my seat is web developer and web designer. So the app side of the conversation doesn't come in until later on in the conversation, if that makes sense. But I would say that mobile apps are suitable for a great variety of industries. It's not just those verticals that you mentioned. I think the key aspect is trying to understand, like I touched on previously, the pain points that they're going through, and trying to understand if they're trying to generate more business, more leads, more inquiries, actually why isn't it happening, and what type of functionality could be put into place to help them grow. And that's irrespective of whether you are a beauty salon, a restaurant, a takeaway. And so what I would suggest is move away from the vertical industries and try and think of the business as an independent business, as an independent, unique business, because every business has its own challenges, and then tailor your pitch, your conversations, the meetings that you have with them, based on them rather than the industry, basically. I hope that helps. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Thanks very much.
Pleasure. Thanks for that. Excellent. We've got Ben Wickham on as well. So Ben, I'm just going to unmute you. Just one moment. Oh, there you go. Fire away, Ben.
Thanks, Zach. Hi. I just wanted to know sort of how much time on a sort of a weekly basis do you actually spend prospecting to customers? Is that a large part of what you're doing on a weekly basis, or you've got people doing that? How much time do you spend that kind of?
So I do that predominantly myself, and I would, in terms of meetings, I probably set around 5 or 6 meetings a week. So you're looking at around 10 to 12 hours a week of meetings with prospects. And and then the rest of the time is taken up with project management of existing projects, because I mean, to put it in perspective, currently we're working on 29 projects, so we've got 29 projects that are going through that sort of process of making them live, as it were, at different stages, and then following up on admin. So it's a mixture of doing the administration, doing the project management, setting up meetings within the week, and then actually delivering on some of those projects as well.
Fabulous. Thanks.
Sorry, just a quick question. Would you generate those 5 meetings? That would be purely just through attending a networking event or a couple of networking events in a week?
So it's changed. When I first started, it was through attending 1 or 2 networking events a week. Now it is yes, I still go to my 1 networking event a week. That BNI is the only networking that I do now, because I simply don't have time to facilitate others. I'd love to do more, to be honest with you. But a lot of those prospects and meetings now are coming through recommendations and referrals. That's people now coming to us and saying, can we have a sit down, and can we grab a coffee?
Perfect. Really useful. Any other questions coming through? We've got one here from Dick Thompson. He wants to know, do you do any cold calling at all?
No, I've never done cold. So if we go back, Zach, I'm sure you'll remember that way back when, in the City Local days, 13 years ago, I used to do cold calling. It doesn't suit my skill set or personality. I think that cold calling works for some people. It just doesn't work for me, so that's why I've avoided it. But also for me, I think that I find cold calling is a much longer process, but also I find that there could be time wasted there, because it's almost a needle in a haystack where you're trying to find that one prospect that is going to bite potentially versus all the other phone calls that you're making. Whereas at networking and going out and meeting business owners, it is building relationships, and for me, I love that part of the business. So it's not only because I personally believe that it wouldn't work for my business, but it also doesn't work for my skill sets and my personality, I think.
Sure, perfect. And another quick question has come in from Michael. When you go through the presentation, with a business owner, do you use a PowerPoint at all? Do you have a slide deck, or is it all just kind of a conversation that happens?
Actually, I should have touched on this. I think this is one of the most unique things that I do, and clients have mentioned this compared to other meetings that they've had with other design and development agencies. Most do use slide decks, PowerPoint presentations, and they literally go through it. I use a live presentation. So if I'm doing websites, if I'm showcasing websites, I will pick websites that are live based on what I think will work for them. I will then go into the back-end CMS system, show them the CMS, show them the live website builder based on a client that I think will work for them. Then I'll go onto the website grader tool, and that's a live demo of where their site is, and so on and so forth. Even on when we're pitching for an app, if I'm looking at the website and I'm saying, well, this aspect is missing, this bit. If it's a restaurant, the loyalty feature is missing. You can add an events calendar for special offers. That's missing off your website. And it's very much live and using live data and live things on my screen rather than a fixed PowerPoint presentation. But having said that, the concept and the flow is identical, but what I use as examples are always unique.
Really interesting, really interesting. Another question come in. They're coming thick and fast now as we approach the end. 29 projects on the go. How do you manage them all? People are saying, I'm struggling to manage 6 projects here. What's your trick? I'm interested for myself.
Firstly, the team. Like I said, I think predominantly so it's 2 things. The first thing is the network that I have around me, and when I first started as a licensee, I did not have this network. So it's the support team, you guys, and as you know, I mean, we've exchanged a few emails already today. So having you guys to relay questions and queries to, that's the first thing. Having my contractors on side, but also the partners that I work with, offsetting some of the work to them and dividing parts of the work, and i.e. being a project manager of it, allows you to be able to manage all those projects that are there, I would say, and also just, I guess, having a great CRM system and being organized, having everything scheduled, diarized, tabularized in the sense of what is, and I always code them into 3 brackets. So what is urgent, what is important, and what is non-urgent, and that's always within my diary as well. So I know what I need to be addressing at every time. And so if certain things are non-urgent, they might go to the next day or the day after, and I've got no problems with that as long as I complete the tasks for the urgent projects. So if I've got 29 projects, and let's say 3 or 4 of them on that day, there's certain urgent aspects that I need to get back to, I will focus on those things. If there's other things in the other brackets that I need to focus on, if I miss them, it's fine. I'll do them on the next day. But the longer you leave them, they'll suddenly move into the urgent bracket themselves. So basically, yeah, tabularize, diarize it, and organize them in a set structure as well.
Priyesh, thank you so much for giving up your time today. I know you're a busy man. I think we all know you're a busy man with 29 projects on the go. We'll let you get back to managing some of them, if not all of them, today. Well, thanks again for your time, and hopefully, we'll have the opportunity to perhaps do another similar webinar with another one of our partners, perhaps someone somewhere else in the world. But until next time, thank you, Priyesh, and thank you to everyone that's attended today. Cheers.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, everyone, for joining as well. Lovely.
I'll definitely echo that as well, Priyesh. So thank you very much for all of your insight. Hopefully everybody here has found it helpful, and to everybody who's attended, thank you for coming online, and hopefully you found it of use.
All right, take care. Bye-bye, everyone. Cheers.
Bye.